Being a Gold Star mother has gained me a lot of faith in my church that I never knew I had, because when something like that happens, you question your faith. I don't know why, but you just do. You say, why? Why him? Well, at that time, women in particular they were homebodies. They stayed home and took care of the children and things like that. And the year that I graduated was the year that they were coming back. The soldiers were coming back from World War II. And what most of my friends at that time were doing, we were 18 and no particular talent of any kind. So we all started getting married, because there was about the only thing women would do at that time was go in for special training for nursing or possibly a school teacher. And if you didn't have the money to do those things, then you either worked in the factory, and right away I got married. I met him through, actually my cousin had already met a young man that came back from the service. So they introduced me to their cousin, his cousin, and that type of thing. It just became natural that I was going with him. My wedding day was very simple. It was just a small family crowd, and that was about it.
Look out. Here she goes. She's going here, that cake.
We started our family, and I was blessed with the fact that I did have a daughter that is the oldest, and then I had 4 sons. My son was a wonderful boy. He really was. He was my first son. Now, he was born in 1958. He was a very good student in school, never outstanding, but just an average good student. In high school, he wanted to work in a print shop, and he did get a job right out of high school before he was inducted. He had Berg and Sundberg printing, and he learned how to bind books, make binding of books, and he learned a great deal in the short time that he was there. There was not money to go to college and that type of thing, but he had a vocation, and he enjoyed that and found friends and so forth. And he wrote poems, even some, and printed. He was in the printing era all over there. And I was so glad that he got to have that experience in school. That's what he did.
Your man in Vietnam, James Daly, Specialist 6, United States Army. Jim is a flight engineer, nursemaid to the Army's newest workhorse, the CH-54. He babies it on the ground and bullies it in the air. Makes it carry everything from tractors and trucks to bulldozers and artillery. It's an ugly angel that works like the devil. Who trusts a 26-year-old with the care and feeding of $1 million worth of equipment? The United States Army. Even at its best, Vietnam is no tourist attraction. Jim and his buddies, like all GIs, make their own fun, and that's the best kind. Specialist 6, James Daly, your man in Vietnam. In today's Action Army, see your Army recruiter.
He was 18, or a little over 18, when he was drafted and went right into the Army. He felt like it was his duty. I mean, when I was raised, the era when I was raised, that's what you did. When your country called you to go, you went. And you didn't question. That was what you were told to do. He had his training at Fort Hood. He was with Company A, 2nd Battalion, 12th Infantry, 25th Infantry Division. And he trained there and was trained to go overseas. He was just a soldier, what can I say? He was a good soldier, evidently. He was promoted pretty quickly to sergeant. We were proud. We took it as something patriotically that you're supposed to do, protect your country, whatever war it was. My son was married. He had a steady girlfriend that he had gone with for the last 2 or 3 years in his high school, and they got married when he come home from leave the first time. When he got married, he had come back to Hawaii. She went there to meet him, and they just had a civil, just simple marriage, and he went back. The letters home from my son were, well, not too informative. He told some of the things he was doing or not doing, but he sent letters to my husband, who worked at National Lock, and he sent his letters there, informing him more about the action he was going through and some of the things that he's seen. But I didn't get those letters until after my husband was gone. He had kept the letters, and I got to read those letters. It would have saddened me probably a lot more if I had read them as they come. But my husband protected me, and he protected me from receiving those letters. But he wanted to let his dad know what was going on over there.
My fellow Americans, not long ago I received a letter from a woman in the Midwest. She wrote, "Dear Mr. President, in my humble way, I am writing to you about the crisis in Vietnam. I have a son who is now in Vietnam. My husband served in World War II. Our country was at war. But now, this time, it's just something that I don't understand. Why?"
They sent the military to the door to our home. There was a lieutenant and a little sergeant that came to our door. I was home alone, and they wouldn't talk to me necessarily. They asked me where my husband was, where my children was, and they were at the park. And the sergeant went to the park where they were and brought them home. I knew they wanted to talk to me about something very seriously, but I couldn't, they wouldn't ask me. They didn't want me to answer any questions until my husband got there. And at that time, of course, the news was given that we did not want to hear, but they told us the circumstances, all that they could tell us. They're bound, they don't get to say much, and at that time they couldn't even say when he would be arriving home. And of course, that's one of the things that you want right away, but you have to wait till the Army is doing what they do. He was sent home, and fortunately his body did come back, and they wouldn't let me see him. We were close family of the Elsie Ulrey Funeral Home, and my oldest son and their son was close friends at that time, and Bob, my 17, and they let him go out there and identify the body. I had a hard time with that, but now I understand why. I have pictures, beautiful pictures of my son, and had I seen something, I didn't want to keep that in my mind, in my always forever. Now, when I think about him right now, he's beautiful. He's 21, sharp, tall, nice. And that's the picture I have got remained in my head. Being a Gold Star mother has gained me a lot of faith in my church that I never knew I had, because when something like that happens, you question your faith. I don't know why, but you just do. Anyone that loses a child at any age is very, very difficult to handle. But when you have a son that you've had 18, 19 years old, and he's drafted into the service and so far, far away, you say, why? Why him? And now I shouldn't have thought that, because there was many, many other mothers experiencing exactly what I was experiencing. But for a while there, I was alone. And then I received a letter she was a Korean Gold Star mother, invited me to their meeting. And when I walked in that room for the first time, and there was like maybe 10 or 12 women there, I wasn't alone. And you can talk to someone like that, say things or do things, cry if you want to, whatever you want to do. You're in a comfort zone with the Gold Star mothers. And I knew I belonged with that group. I didn't socialize with other groups that much or whatever, just a mother. My son, he was a very religious boy. And they tell me that he carried a little Bible in his pocket, in his shirt pocket. And when he was out on the field, when he had a comrade that had been in danger, shot down or whatever, he would go to them. He was more comfort to that boy at that place than he could have been. His life was meant to be close to those who needed him. And we did many, many things. After I was involved for a few years, the boys started coming back from Vietnam, and some of them did not have jobs. They didn't have a lot of things, and some got married right away. So we, as Gold Star mothers, began to group together and try to raise money to give to them, because they didn't have money. They went to the Army so young. We started having garage sales and card parties and so forth. And we did raise money, and we got involved with Roy Miles, who was at the vet center on Court Street here in town then. We would go to him and ask him for boys vets that had come in and asked for help. We wanted to help too. The Gold Star mothers wanted to do something too. So we would bring our money to Roy Miles, and he would have a list of boys that needed help. And we didn't raise big money then, but money went farther in those days than 1969 and 70 in those days than it does now. So we felt very pleased, and we had to give them cash because they didn't even have bank accounts. But we handed it right to them, and we could tell from talking with the boy, we felt good to be able to help. And I know, sometimes you could just close your eyes, and I could hear my son saying, "Thanks, Mom. You're doing something for the boys that are coming home." And that's a good thing, because after a few, I could do that. And of course, as a Gold Star group, we went to the veterans hospitals in Chicago as a volunteer. And when we did that, one time I remember they gave us a group of boys from a certain wing, and we had picnic. We took a big box of roast chicken from the grocery store and baked beans and things that we could serve on a picnic. And we mothers, all of us, made brownies on our own and took to that picnic. But they would bring us just a certain group of boys out to the picnic. And after we got there, we'd get those little books that they could get at the PX or whatever they had to get whatever they wanted from the store that they had there. So we felt good about that too. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I volunteered in the hospitals, and we wrote letters or cards or just talked to them. And we would go to the craft room and make beads or whatever if they wanted to give to their loved ones. We were there for them. But we really never talked about the son we had lost. We were just there as volunteers, and we did not wear a uniform. We were told to wear bright clothing, colorful, not something depressing, when we went to the hospitals. I was on the national board of Gold Star Mothers as an officer while they were building it, and I have pictures of it not finished. I mean, we went there often, and it was all fenced in. Nobody could go in there then, but we could stand on the outside of the fence and see it being built. But I probably, the first time I went there when it was finished was, of course, my husband and I he come with me. We took a trip to Washington and seen the entire, but all the Gold Star Mothers, they had a dedication type thing. And of course, Gold Star Mothers were invited at that time. I can't remember everything that went on at that particular day, but I've been there many, many, many times since. And I think I have been involved in about 4 of the moving walls. That had 2 or 3 of them have come to Rockford. The first one came to Beatty Park, and the Vietnam boys that were here let us put up a tent. Nobody else could put up anything for food or anything. So that women that might come, that would be Gold Star Mothers, they could see our tent and come to talk to us. And we took turns staying in the tent there with the Vietnam boys. The Vietnam boys that come back and that have formed their own Vietnam organization, I am very, very close to them. They involve me in the parades, whatever they do. Ceremoniously, they always invite me, and I'm just so proud to be with them. And what can I say? They're all beautiful boys to me. Difficult for me sometimes to look at them and see they have got gray hair and aged a little bit, but I can't see my son that way, but they are. Since the Gold Star Mothers, so many of us have passed on from age, they have joined themselves together as family, Gold Star families, which I think is wonderful. I truly do. Losing a child, no matter. It is, as I've said before, no matter what the circumstances or what if it's accident, whatever it happened to be, from cancer or whatever, you lose a son. That's a part of you. It's a part of you. It takes a little piece of your heart that goes with it. It just does. And it's never replaced because it can't be. That's the one thing that you can't replace is a son or a daughter, really.
When you think of him, and you get that visual in your mind, what is that visual?
Well, I get that visual in uniform because that's the picture that we took of him when he came home the first time in uniform. And it's a very, in my opinion, handsome picture, and he looks relaxed, safe. He's got a smile on his face. And that's the way I remember him, right there. I try not to think about the war and some of the things I learned later. I know they happened, but they're gone. And he's safe. He's safe. No more pain, no more nothing. He's just safe. And someday I'll be right up there with him. And that's my thought.
I don't like this war or what I am doing, but I do believe in what I am fighting for, and I will continue to fight for as long as I have to.
It has been an honor and privilege to be a part of Vet Doc and be able to create this documentary for Angie. I have gotten the opportunity to listen to Angie's story throughout the school year and turn her story into this documentary. Unfortunately, I was unable to meet her in person due to COVID, but from what I know from listening to her story, Angie is such a strong and caring woman who has dealt with much loss throughout her life. Despite the hardships, she's continued to give back as much as she can. She took such a devastating loss and turned it into something so beautiful. She's honored her son so well and I am so glad I have had the opportunity to create this documentary for her. It has been a stressful year trying to perfect this documentary, but I am so thankful I have gotten this opportunity and was able to put this together. I hope you enjoyed, Angie.